Hi everyone and welcome to Connect at 7, and I'm Dave, the curate at St James's Church, and today I want to introduce you to my back garden. So here's a small patch that we've put some flowers in, and it has been such a joy for me, my wife and my 3 girls to watch these flowers springing forth. Since spring we've had daffodils come up, now there's the roses that I've pruned rather heavily, and it's just, it's coming along really nicely, and we love gardening and we love being outdoors. So today I just wanted to bring you a reflection on God as a gardener. There's many different names and images for God, and they reflect 2 things. 1, the character of God, and 2, an aspect of God that we need. Something that chimes with us at different seasons in our life. So God as a fortress might be for when you need protection, you feel like you're under attack. Or God as a shepherd when you need guidance and led to greener pastures. Or God as a mother hen when you just need that comfort that a mum can give. There's a lion, a lamb, a judge. Maybe you feel like you've had injustice against you. You need God as a judge. But God as a gardener, it's not often, we don't talk about that much, but it's found in John 15. So John 15, 1-6 says, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me, as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing." So the word that stood out to me today was to remain. You're remaining. It's like we often think of an action verb, like doing, going, being, we need to do something, but remaining is still a verb. It's still an action. And actually to remain might look like you're doing nothing, but remaining in me, remaining in God, is very significant. So when you think about a rose bush, now I am renowned for cutting roses rather harshly. I was once a landscape gardener part-time while I worked for a youth work charity for 3 years, and he taught me, my boss, Paul, Paul taught me to cut down these rose bushes really hard, like almost to the ground with the first few little nubs showing. And you cut them down and they just look pathetic and they look like nothing's going to happen there. But he told me, you get more flowers if you cut harder, and I'm amazed at that. And so it's like that. Sometimes it feels like we have been cut down. We have been sheared, we've been damaged, we've been cut, and we're like, oh God, why? And that period then of rest, of remaining, can feel like you're doing nothing. To people outside, it might look like you're doing nothing. Maybe you're just reading a book about God and it looks like you just sat there. Or maybe you're watching this today and it looks like you just sat watching a screen. But our hope is that something is happening inside, that as we read the Bible, as we read the scriptures, something is happening inside that we might not even be conscious about. So remaining, waiting, resting. So this song called Promises by Maverick City Music, it's got these words: "Put your faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope, my firm foundation, you'll never let me down." Let's spend a moment just to listen and worship to this song.
Abraham, you're the God of covenant and of faithful promises. Time and time again, you have proven you do just what you said. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness. to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. To age, though the earth may pass away, your word remains the same. Oh, your history can prove there's nothing you can't do. You're faithful and true. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me.
So great, so great, your faithfulness through every season. I've seen it, I will see it. Yeah. I'll put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my open, firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my open, firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my open, firm foundation. He'll never let me down. No, he'll never let me down.
Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Oh, great is your faithfulness to me.
So, if God is a gardener, and if He loves us, that means we must expect to be pruned. We must expect to have some things done to us sometimes. So I once ran a youth work charity that I already mentioned, doing detached youth work on a deprived estate, and to me it was my dream job. It was the place I'd always seen myself, I wanted to be. And within a couple of years, it very much felt like I was having to leave. And that was really hard for me. And when I did leave, I felt completely cut down. I didn't know what I was moving on to, but I knew I had to leave. And I felt lost. I wasn't sure what was next around the corner. And I remember that feeling of that just remaining. And I was just doing my garden landscaping job. And I just remember being there and mowing lawns and turning up weeds and just feel like, yo, God, what is this? What am I doing? There's something really good about gardening, though, is that, well, for me anyway, it brings me such a sense of peace and connection with the world. And it just allows me time just to go through in my mind and, explore my emotions. So I'm a big fan of gardening. But actually, if I hadn't left that charity then I wouldn't have been open to the next opportunity that was coming, and the next. And here I am today because of those choices. And so I thank God. And often we can do that with hindsight. At the time it's painful, but we can thank God for the pruning that has happened. This time in pandemic might have felt like a pruning. I mean, it looks like the church had closed, although we'd moved online. We were still connecting, but to the world it looked like we'd gone. And it often feels like that as we think about reopening or what's happening. It feels like we've been pruned and there's nothing happening. And I want to reassure you that stuff is happening underneath, that we are looking and praying, and we ask for your help in this too, about where the new growth is to start. Because when you cut things back, you don't just leap straight back into fruit and flowers. There's little shoots that have to happen first. There's new growth that has to happen first, bits of blossom, and then you get to the fruit. And we are in that stage of trying to figure out which shoots to invest, to put our energies into. What is God calling us to as a church at this time? And it's exciting. Although it doesn't look like much, it can be frustrating because we want to see the flowers, we want to see the joy of God's creation. This was like a muddy patch a few months ago, and now we take great delight in it. And I feel like that is where we're at with St. James at the moment. And it might be where you're feeling where you're at with your faith at the moment. But hold on tight, remain in God. There is also the prophetic words of Isaiah. He says in Isaiah 2:4, "He will judge between the nations and will settle disputes for many peoples. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore." So our tools that we are used to will be changed by God. The spears, swords, it could be other things. Today it might be something different. Laptops changed into spades. I love that, reconnecting with the ground, with what we are made to do here in this world, to be part of God's creation. Take joy in gardening. And if you don't have a garden, there's beautiful flowers at Vivery Park, there's beauty down by the river, there's beauty all around Taunton, and things are just coming into bloom. So take time to go out, enjoy God's creation. And if you have a chance, get out there with your shears, get out there with your hose and do some weeding, and think about how God is a gardener, and that He has been and will be a gardener in your life. We're now going to finish with a song called "The Father's House," and it's by Corey Asbury. And he's got these great words that failure won't define me, it's my Father that does. So often when we've been pruned, it feels like we've failed. And it feels like sometimes we're failing as a church for so many different people groups that can't be met at the moment. And yet, we look to God to define us. We look to God to define me. We look to God to see what fruit is coming in the future. And we hold on with hope. And we know that God is good. And He's a good gardener too. Hopefully better than me. Bye everyone.
Sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over, my story's just begun. And failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Yeah, failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Ooh. it, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good. And failure's never final when the Father's in the room. And failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Yeah. You're in the Father's house. Yeah. Prodigals come home, the helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors swing wide, the dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place, the cynical find faith, and love is